Welcome back, everyone. It is 4:32, and we will now resume our meeting. Can we please have the roll call for the regular meeting?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Niscandy,
Here.
Councilmember Truby,
Here.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Here.
All councils present.
Thank you so much. Moving along to our next item of business, the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Kelly will lead us today. Thank you, Councilmember Kelly. And our inspiration will be delivered by Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. In my off time, I belong to the Rotary, which is a service club, and we go out and we do different service projects throughout the valley or wherever we find need. And one of the ways we start every meeting is with the four-way test. And the four-way test obligates every Rotarian to apply those four tests to everything they think, say, and do. And I just want to share them because it wouldn't be a bad idea to start just about everything you do with them. The first is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And the last is, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Item 8 on the agenda, report of closed session. Do we have a report?
Thank you, Mayor. There's no reportable action taken by the council at this afternoon's closed session.
Thank you. Item number 9, awards, presentations, and appointments.
Madam Mayor, we do have a special presentation that's not listed. It is the representative of our Assembly Member Greg Wallace. I would like to present a proclamation to the city.
Thank you. Mr. Ortiz, good to see you.
Hello, my name is Felipe Ortiz and I work for Assemblymember Greg Wallace. He sent his best regards. Unfortunately, today he's feeling a little bit under the weather. I have a resolution for the city because you guys became the first city in the state of California to become Autistic certified. So I just would like to take a moment and read this, the resolution. California Legislature Assembly Resolution by the Honorable Greg Wallace, 47 Assembly District, relative to commending the city of Palm Desert, whereas the city of Palm Desert holds distinction as the first city in the state of California and the second city in the United States to earn designation from the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards, IBCCS, as an autistic certified city for which the community's residents and leaders are deserving of special public recognition and heartiest congratulations. And whereas a respected credentialing board that brings 20 years of industry knowledge and leadership in its work with local leaders and business to help create truly inclusive and accessible environments, IBCCS awards its Autism Certified City designation to communities in which key stakeholders, including in healthcare, education, local government, hospitality, leisure, and corporate sectors, are trained and certified to better serve individuals with autism and other cognitive disorders. And whereas, in recognition that 1 in 36 children in the United States have been diagnosed with autism, 1 in 6 people have sensory needs, and millions of adults are autistic but would never formally diagnose. Autism certified cities such as Palm Desert will play a key role in helping people become aware of the substantial difference each individual can make with a bit of patience and understanding, and that the parents and caregivers of those experiencing challenges of autism often need support in helping their children and worse navigate new situations. And whereas, because many families lack of access to applied behavior analysis therapy and their loved ones may be vulnerable to outbursts triggered by overstimulation, the Autism Certified City designation highlights the fact that each individual, child, or adult will have unique coping mechanisms and bring further awareness of the patient and support that each affected person and their family will need. And whereas by achieving its landmark Autism Certified City designation, The city of Palm Desert stands as a shining example of other communities for other communities in Riverside County and the state of California to follow and may serve as an inspiration for them to utilize the relative simple industry and position-specific training from clinical experts and autistic self-advocates so they may join the growing number of autism-certified cities. And whereas a true pioneer in the state of California and the nation in achieving the autism-certified city designation, the city of Palm Desert has provided its residents, business people, school staff members, and government officials with the tools to expand their understanding and awareness of autism and numerous ways they can support individuals and families affected by autism. Now, therefore, may it be resolved by Assembly Member Greg Wallace that he takes great pleasure in commending the city of Palm Desert for earning autism certified city designation and applauds the city for its commitment to promoting inclusion, embracing opportunities to create a welcoming environment for all who live, work, and visit Palm Desert. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the City Council and our staff, we are honored to receive this recognition and a special gratitude to all of our staff members that completed their participation in record time. We're proud to hold the distinction of having expanded our compassion. And in a recent virtual meeting with the mayor of our sister city in Ixtapas, Iguatanejo, I mentioned what we have done, and his eyes lit up that they could potentially be the first city in Mexico to do so. So taking the first step here means we're rippling elsewhere. Thank you very much. Do we have any city manager comments?
No comments tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have any mayor and council member reports and requests for action? We'll start with Mr. Truby today. Council member?
All right. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, April 6th, Salvation Army in Cathedral City will be hosting a expo for veterans with about 40 or so vendors there available for veterans of all stripes from all parts of the valley. All parts of California are welcome, of course, to come and see what's available for them all in one time in one place. We're going to celebrate several notable veterans as well. So please put that on your calendar about 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. April 6th in Cathedral City at the Salvation Army headquarters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Truby. On this end, Councilmember Kelly.
On the heels of that proclamation, I am pleased to report that our Jocelyn Senior Center has also received autism certification through qualification of the required number of staff in training. And that is part of a very conscious plan driving their strategic thinking to provide services to all seniors in the Cove community. So congratulations. I also want to feature that Friday, we held a ribbon cutting to celebrate the donation by the Slaughter family of, is it 10 acres of open space named in honor of Warren and Mary Slaughter, just in the foothills where many trailheads began. And it's wonderful to celebrate the generosity of that family in preserving this asset for generations to come. I encourage everyone to use your favorite search engine and be inspired by the lives of Warren and Mary Slaughter, who were truly icons of service and civility. And hopefully the donation of this land will provide enduring inspiration to all of us to embody those qualities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Nastandi. Mayor Pro Tem Harnik.
Thank you. Recently, a couple days ago, or was it yesterday? Who knows? I sit on as the council liaison on the CRPC, which is Cultural Resources Preservation Committee. Did I get that right?
Mhm.
And they just developed their work plan, and it was an impressive meeting putting that together. So it's nice to see that they have a path forward with what they're attempting to achieve. And this is the group that designates historic buildings or any type of entity in the city of Palm Desert. Also, I want to encourage everybody to go on Engage Palm Desert and get your voices heard on a number of projects, one of which is the library. So we'd love you to get in there and record your thoughts and direction on that. I was in Sacramento last week with the Southern California Association of Governments, and I think we did good work on housing and budget, and we did a lot of work on that, and hopefully we see it reflected in decisions made on our regional housing determination. We're in Palm Desert, we're very happy to build as much housing as needed, and we want to see it reflected in a very accurate way. And we really hope we see the work we did reflected in the budget, because there are some items that have been cut out that will genuinely be detrimental to our cities and to our state. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Since our last meeting, as many of my peers did, had the opportunity to attend the fashion show and food and wine festival. And it was great to see it from the inside and see the international caliber of people that are visiting, the chefs that are present, and what draws people to the area for our great weather, but seeing that this is an economic driver. Sometimes I hear from folks that are saying, why are we investing in such an event? But looking at the return on investment of how many people stay here, how many people shop here. And I know we're looking forward to the debrief from Palm Springs Life on that. And as I had told a council member Truby at an event, let's look at every sparkle and every sequin as the dollar that we're getting back. I attended the League of Cities Environmental Quality Policy Committee, and that was a conversation on energy. That was as things that we're watching of what's going on in the legislature, what makes the greatest impact, what is coming ahead, and how the cities can help make the best choices and determinations that will benefit our residents most. I've been involved with the Governor's Educational Master Plan. I will be going to San Bernardino tomorrow to be part of a regional effort. And locally, there was a conversation about a couple of initiatives. Everyone already knows about Job Corps, but they have added the Conservation Corps. And that is welcoming to anybody that's interested in the environment, whether it be composting. They need people with different trades, welding, construction, as they're looking at infrastructure that protects the environment. And you get up to $30,000 for participating in that program. And with College Corps, as long as you're enrolled and you complete 450 hours of community service, which most of our students are already doing, you get $10,000. And you can do that for 2 years. So this would be an opportunity to study without debt, and something that we can take advantage of here locally at Cal State or at COD. So that concludes my report, and now we move on to item 12, non-agenda public comments. Do we have any online comments?
Madam Mayor, I'll read the opening comments. The time has been set aside for the public to address the City Council on issues that are not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. Speakers may utilize one of three options listed on the first page of the agenda. Because of the Brown Act does not allow for the city council to act on items not listed on the agenda, members may briefly respond or refer matters to staff for a report and recommendation at a future meeting. And for those on Zoom, if you want to participate in public comment, please click the raise hand button on your computer or smartphone. If you're joining in by calling in on your phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute yourself. Madam Mayor, we have no online public comments.
Thank you. Since there are none online, we do have two requests to speak in person. The first, Mr. Brad Anderson. Good to see you.
Hi, Brad Anderson, City of Rancho Mirage. Felt like I was at a wedding walking down there. But anyway, wanted to speak on the non-agenda public comment real quick concerning your earlier study session. I was under the impression that I could have provided public comment, but apparently you don't. I would hopefully suggest that possibly you can look into that. I would do a written request too, but I think I know I could have corrected some of the staff report and been, I guess, an influence on the city council with the information I know over years or 24 years of dealing with that organization. But, and again, that's with the library too. You asked for participation, but you denied it at this forum and from the public. So not to criticize you, but I would suggest that maybe having access for the public to attend that meeting, or to not to attend, to participate, openly participate with verbalized comment, that would be great. What else do I have? I'm sorry, I'm thinking now. I was going to talk about something else. My understanding, district elections, you have districts now, which is awesome. People wanted that. I hopefully each individual district would have emphasis to allow, or not allow, but to have certain residents go ahead and put in a candidacy for that position for city councilor, and the more the better. And get somebody, or have somebody that's really, really interested in the people that they represent, and that's not just their area, but the city as a whole, and concentrate on the city and maybe not so much in the regional aspects. And I know the longer you sit on city council, these aspects become overpowering and dictates a lot of your time. And I think, oh, and just one little comment, I wanted to notice that your meeting did start on time, and that may be an ongoing issue. I don't know. I know Palm Springs often does it. We're waiting for them to eat. Not to throw everybody under the bus, but it's really disrespectful for the people that are waiting. And I was here, and during this study session, I see no reason that it could have been planned out to start on time, and maybe hold off on closed session until the end of the meeting. And at Desert Hot Springs, I'm example of a meeting starting on time. So, and that's all I have. I'm going to leave. I have another meeting I have to attend to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson. We also have a request to speak from Michael Nowacki. Is that how it's pronounced? Thank you.
My name is Michael Nowacki. I reside at the beautiful Oasis Country Club, and probably at this moment, the least popular person on the grounds, because I was the person that blew the whistle on my own HOA as a not-for-profit mutual benefit corporation for conducting bingo without a license. Today, I posted by 10 a.m. documents that were submitted to the members of the town council, or the city council, that support my request that the city manager issue a cease and desist order to suspend the license of the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission to conduct future bingo operations at the Oasis Country Club. A bingo license was granted to the CVRM on March the 1st of 2024. It took less than 3 weeks for the covenants of the license to be abridged at the bingo event that was conducted at the Oasis Country Club on March the 21st, 2024, which I attended and was an eyewitness. It is my understanding, based upon the information contained on the City of Palm Desert's web portal, that non-agenda items of the City Council's agenda from tonight can be directed to a staff member for action. Delaying the issuance of this cease and desist letter would allow both organizations to conduct again a bingo event that is scheduled sometime in April that will not conform with the city ordinance, which, as you may know, is 5.94.040. Today, I submitted 2 letters supporting documents to all of you that basically provide substantial documentation that says that the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, in acquiring this license, has not been operating on their responsibilities underneath the license. The Penal Code Section 5.48080 states the following. If a licensee is conducting bingo or allowing bingo to be conducted in violation of any provision in this chapter, the city manager shall have the authority to suspend the license summarily and order the licensee to cease and desist from further operation of bingo in this city. This is what's required today. I request and respectfully submit that the City Council actually issues the license, and that the City Council has the responsibility to act today. And I would appreciate that you do so. And I thank you for your time. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you so much. Although we cannot make a comment or engage on that, I do believe that that is something that has already been discussed within staff. Thank you so much. And in the meantime, have there been any other comments online?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Having concluded the non-agenda public comments, we move on to item number 13, the consent calendar. And as a reminder, all matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one motion. The public may comment on any of the items on the consent agenda within the 3-minute time limit. Individual items may be removed by the City Council for separate discussion. I do not see any requests to speak on calendar or consent items. Do we have any? Seeing no items online or any discussion?
Move to approve consent.
Second.
I would like to poll item E and F at the request of community members. Can we delay that? Or are we approving the remaining items excluding E and F? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick and Councilmember Tribune. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Thomas Sawyer, Public Affairs Manager, and we have before you 2 staff reports requesting amendments to 2 contracts that we have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Some of the questions that I have, let me go back to the page where I flagged it. Some of the questions that the public has received, and the reason for pulling both is in regards to the discussions or considerations on sales tax measures, and wondering the increases that will be here for the Aquatic Center, and in particular, the concern over billboards. How often have they been used, and has it really been something that has yielded results? There seems to be opposition to spending money on billboards.
So we do find the billboards to be quite effective for the Aquatic Center. We use the digital billboards with Lamar so that we're getting maximum exposure around the valley. Billboards are very effective when you have a strong call to action, which we often have with the Aquatic Center. And we find that we're able to reach people that way that we may not reach other ways. And it gets us great exposure around the valley.
What other events does the city have? I've seen them, for example, for the Living Desert, but they're not a city event. What other city-sponsored events, activities have been listed with billboards?
None.
May I?
Yeah.
Perhaps I misunderstood the question, but using billboards, we use, we sponsor Fashion Week and Food and Wine. We see them on those. And for El Paseo as well. And they are the digital, so they rotate. And again, as you said so well, there's a strong call to action with their graphics in the presentation, and they found them very effective. They've been using them for years because of what they consider to be an evident return on investment.
And I'll point out that those billboards, which definitely are used, are not paid for with city funds.
So if they're not paid for with the city funds, are they paid for under the contract for the agency that gets paid for by the city funds?
We sponsor those events, so we provide sponsorship dollars. They're not assigned to specific pieces of their marketing.
So for the aquatic center, we are paying for this agency to put together a marketing plan that includes the billboards, and the city is paying for this contract that includes the billboards, but the city's not paying for billboards?
I'm saying that's the one that we do pay. Fashion Week and Food and Wine and the EPPBID, the El Paseo Board, those aren't city funds.
Okay. And do we know where that money comes from? Because that's part of the next item as well.
Yes, and I'll help on the PDAC.
Thank you.
Thomas. The PDAC additional work with FG Creative was really generated by my office with working with the YMCA. We are testing a little bit more aggressive marketing strategies. The council knows we've had waning attendance at PDAC. The annual gap between the revenues and expenses continues to grow at a very rapid pace. So we are actually looking at enhancing the budget with FG Creative this year. We've recently gone through a SWOT analysis, looking for opportunities to invest more heavily in advertising. We've got a baseline that's been created to anticipate exactly what impact the advertising has had. So as we're talking about a sales tax impact, we are going to be able to quickly measure based upon last year's attendance. For every dollar that we spend, how much are we increasing attendance and the revenue that comes with it? That's the point, trying to drive more people to utilize it, generate new ideas that to challenge the status quo and see if we can't close that gap or at least slow the continual subsidy down a little bit.
Thank you. Yes, please.
And I would add to that, and I sit on the subcommittee for the Aquatic Center, and as does Councilmember Truby. And it became clear in the SWOT analysis, one of our weaknesses was that we had not been marketing this great asset that we have the way we should. And it's coming back to let's invest in our investment, let people know about what a great asset that is, and promote the use of it. And we want to do a better job and make sure that we draw community members, both from Palm Desert and outside, but we really recognize that we need to do a better job of that.
Thank you. I appreciate you. That was my only question. Thank you.
Mayor, did you have questions on F?
I do.
And we could take them together.
That was the plan. Thank you. So since you're already here, Mr. Thomas Sewell, the question I have, go back here, regarding item F was in regards to, again, El Paseo. El Paseo was one of the concerns that I'm hearing as we're discussing the sidewalk improvements and the crossing improvements. So there's additional scrutiny on where that money is going. And in terms of the reserved money that's being moved, first off, they said, where is the money from El Paseo coming from? Maybe that's something that our finance director could ask, if this is all city money or is this being generated only by the merchants on El Paseo?
None of this is city money. This doesn't affect the general fund at all. The money is generated by a fee that the merchants who belong to the district pay when they pay their business license. And so the board administers only those funds. The money that they're choosing to spend here is their own and not the city's.
Thank you. And the part of that consideration, as well as I met with a business owner further towards the end of Portola, and they said they don't feel that they have as much of a say in what happens, even though they pay their dues, how can those businesses increase their voice so that they do feel they have equity?
Any member in the business is always welcome at the monthly board meeting. We have a regular newsletter that goes out to them. There's a private Facebook group for the merchants. There are plenty of opportunities for them to express their thoughts. I'm certainly always available to them, and I meet with a lot of them on a regular basis. And we send out a street team to the merchants up and down the street. So I've talked with a number of merchants on that side of the street. They don't generate the foot traffic that other parts of El Paseo generate. It's just sort of the nature of the street at the moment that's starting to change as we see the mix of businesses down there change. But certainly I've worked with a lot of merchants down there who've got ideas about how to increase that and different things that they can do. So we're always open to hearing that, and I'm always available for that.
I think that was the consideration, that there's all of the marketing that happens for the westernmost part of El Paseo and how to spread the love. Good to know that there's that private Facebook group, if we can maybe put the name out there, or for the other businesses that aren't aware.
We take that around to literally every store that's in the district. There aren't that many of them, and so we're in contact with each and every one of them. Also, I would say that we don't market parts of the street. There's no marketing for specific pieces of the street. We market the whole district. So there's nothing that pushes people specifically to one place or another. There are stores that are more active and less active. We have First Fridays, for example, which is a streetwide activity. There is more activity on certain parts of the street, and it's been hard to get businesses to respond to that on the east end of the street. So there's some challenges to marketing a mile long street, but we're working on it.
Yeah, thank you. And oh God, what was the other one? Is there a series of intervals to let them know how often they can expect some of that outreach? And again, these are multiple questions for multiple individuals. Would being part of that Facebook group let them know when there are upcoming outreach options? I mean, our business owners are
All they have to
run
do
the
is
business.
request a visit, and we'll send somebody there.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much. At this point, I will entertain a motion to move the remainder of the items.
Move 2 items.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0 on both items E and F.
Having finished the consent calendar, we now move on to item number 14, the action calendar. The public may comment on individual action items within the 3-minute time limit. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options that our city clerk will provide if they're online. Do we have any in-person comment cards that have been received in the meantime? Thank you. Any online? Thank you so much. Item 14A, approve an emergency grant program in an aggregate amount not to exceed $1,500,000 for commercial property owners and homeowners associations located along Interstate 10 affected by Tropical Storm Hilary.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council members. I'm Randy Chavez, Deputy Director of Public Works. And staff has prepared a brief presentation of the proposed grant program you have before you. If I may, here. Okay, a quick summary of Tropical Storm Hilary and what it impacted. So Tropical Storm Hilary came from the Morongo Valley Basin, and debris and silt and sediment flowed east along the I-10 corridor. And that material was deposited on private property along the I-10 corridor between Miriam and Washington Street. And also that material was also deposited in city retention basins and drainage channels. Immediately after the storm, the staff performed cleanup efforts at the Spanish Walk development. Cleanup costs were approximately $175,000. Staff also discovered that FEMA would not cover private property damages. Most properties did not have flood insurance. And staff has been in contact with property owners and representatives requesting some assistance similar to the assistance provided to the Spanish Walk development. where are we at today? So currently, the city is currently repairing drainage channels in the north section of the city. We're desilting those channels, primarily east of Cook Street and also west of Cook Street in the area known as Section 29. However, while city staff has been cleaning and repairing these channels, we have noticed that several properties still contain silt and sediment from Tropical Storm Hillary. And why is this important? Well, these private properties also utilize the city's drainage system, the channels, Section 29, Mid-Valley Channel, et cetera. And what we found is this non-native material lines the channels and prevents water from percolating, therefore making these our storm systems ineffective. In addition, when this material dries, it hardens almost like concrete. So if this material was to dry inside the storm drains, it'll eventually plug them, if not cleaned out on a regular basis. So that was the purpose of this grant program. So just to highlight a couple of bullet points here, the program will assist with cleanup activities and our storm drain systems. And this is to serve the broader public interest and needs. As mentioned, we are requesting $1.5 million for this program. And the way it works is the city will match up to 35% of the cleanup costs per property up to $200,000. This is on a reimbursement basis. This is not retroactive to properties that have already performed cleanup. And prevailing wage will need to be paid for cleanup efforts if the cost is over $15,000. In the area that it will qualify, and we have a map on the next slide, but it's essentially 250 feet south of I-10 from Merriam Way to Washington Street. And eligible properties are commercial property owners and homeowners associations. And ineligible properties are residential property owners, commercial property tenants, and previously assisted properties and HOAs. And this is a map of the eligible area. Essentially, it covers the north section of the city. So next steps, if approved, we're asking for approval. If approved, we're requesting that funds be appropriated from reserves. We will work with the city attorney to finalize the application process. And we are tentatively accepting applications the week of April 8th. That concludes the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't believe there are any questions other than good job. And it's crucial to understand that that silt will become very solid very quickly, and we can't let it go any further and ensure we don't know what's coming. We're expecting rain this weekend, for example, and we have to protect our residents and our infrastructure. Thank you for all you do.
I support approving the 1.5 million.
I will second that motion.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next on the item, 14B, approve the replacement of a bronze plaque at the Desert Holocaust Memorial.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Amy Lawrence, Deputy Director of Economic Development. It was recently brought to the city's attention that a word on one of the plaques at the Desert Holocaust Memorial located in the Civic Center Park was considered offensive to a specific ethnic group. In exploring how to move forward, I contacted Mr. Alan Potash at the Jewish Federation of the Desert, who was very helpful in obtaining updated language from some experts in the field of Holocaust education. So the request before you is to replace the plaque with this updated language, and funding for replacement installation is available in the Public Art Fund. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Before we advance, I wanted to highlight that there was a resident that called from Riverside, and she's the one that brought forward her concern. She then drove all the way out here to attend the coffee with the mayor and express very passionately in tears what this meant to her. And I commend our staff for going above and beyond to reach out all the way to the Holocaust Museum in DC to be sure that this was done in the most respectful way possible. So I greatly appreciate our team. Thank you.
Thank you for expressing that. I certainly echo the praise for staff's thorough outreach to affected constituent groups and move to approve.
I'll second the
I-
motion.
And if I may make a comment, I just feel the need to say it was the Greif family and the Brandt family who put the funds together for the Holocaust Memorial. And these were fine people. They were Holocaust survivors. They're no longer with us today. They did tremendous outreach, going to prisons to speak to prisoners about adversity and overcoming adversity. They went into all of our schools, into the high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools to talk about it. And I could assure you that neither Joe or Earl, the Greif or Brandt, would have ever done anything to offend anyone. And certainly this was an oversight. They had the best intentions to bring this issue to everyone's thinking and thought process and to really raise awareness. And I assure you there was no malintent in what they had done, just strictly an oversight. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was a part of the conversation with that individual, that she understood that this was outdated language and that it was one word. She said that the Roma people had 1.5 million people that had been executed in the concentration camps, and she wanted a more respectful term applied to her people, and that's where it started, but completely understood that the memorial is beautiful, passionate, powerful, and that there was no intent behind it that would have been offensive. Just to put it out there, much respect to their work in having this placed in Palm Desert.
We're voting. There we go.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 14C, approve placement of a peace pole at the Community Rose Garden in Civic Center Park.
Good afternoon again. American Veterans Post 66, Palm Springs, also known as AMVETS, is requesting to donate an 8-foot tall peace pole to be installed at the Community Rose Garden in the Civic Center Park. The peace pole will read, "May peace prevail on earth," in 4 different languages. That's English, Hebrew, Spanish, and Arabic. It will also have a brass braille plate. The Peace Pole project is a signature project of May Peace Prevail on Earth International, which invites people to plant peace poles in their communities. It's estimated that over 200,000 peace poles have been installed across the world, and AMVETS has donated and dedicated peace poles in several locations throughout the Coachella Valley, including Cathedral City, Desert Hot Springs, Mecca, and Thermal. And AMVETS Post Commander Tom Swan Hernandez and I are both available if you have any questions.
Any questions or comments from my peers? No questions or comments.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item number 14D, resolution establishing procedures for the selection of the mayor and mayor pro tem. Do we have any comments on that?
No public comments, Madam Mayor, and
Thank
I'll
you.
begin the presentation. Second. Madam Mayor and City Council, I'm Anthony Mejia, City Clerk. For background, on September 30th, 2021, the City Council adopted the current procedures, which is a seniority-based rotation. And then on February 15th, 2024, the City Council appointed Mayor Quintanilla and Mayor Pro Tem Harnick to an ad hoc committee to review the selection procedures for the position of Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. On March 11th, the committee met and reviewed seniority-based, district-based, and nomination-based options. And ultimately, the committee recommended adoption of a district-based rotation. Under the current rotation policy, it is a seniority-based rotation. Members must have 1 year of experience to serve as mayor pro tem and 2 years of experience on the council to serve as mayor. The regular rotation requires priority be given to the member with the longest continuous service since last serving as mayor, if ever. When 2 members are tied for the number of years of, if there are 2 or more members that are sworn into office on the same day, the member with the highest number of votes shall be inserted first into the rotation, and that's if 2 council members are from the same district. If they're from different districts, then the tie will be broken by a coin toss. Under the proposed procedures, in December 2024, the mayor pro tem will succeed to the position of mayor, and the next longest serving council member without having previous service as mayor will be mayor pro tem. In December 2025, the mayor pro tem will succeed to mayor, and then we'll begin commencing a district-based rotation with the member representing District 3 to be the mayor pro tem. Thereafter, the regular rotation, the mayor pro tem shall succeed to the mayor's position, and the member representing the next sequential district shall be mayor pro tem. If the mayor pro tem is not reelected, the newly elected member is not eligible to serve as mayor. Therefore, the next eligible sequential district shall serve as mayor, and the regular rotation shall resume. In order to serve as mayor, you must have at least 1 year of experience. And then the resolution does include a provision for the removal of the mayor or the mayor pro tem by 4/5 vote. It also includes provisions that if a member declines service, the next eligible sequential district shall fill the vacancy and the regular rotation will continue. If the mayor or mayor pro tem resigns from the position, the next eligible sequential district will fill the vacancy. And if the new mayor's partial term is less than 6 months, the member shall continue to serve as mayor for an additional year. And if there is no option under the proposed procedures, the council can essentially move on to a nomination-based process. I did forecast the regular rotation, and so on the left-hand side, that would be the regular rotation without any kinds of disruptions. I did want to produce a hypothetical scenario in which if you see that if District 4 were to say decline service, what would happen? I think the impact that I wanted to note is the fact that if the next eligible sequential district has to serve as mayor, that council member will not be able to serve as mayor pro tem, so they'll lose that opportunity. And the same thing happens if a mayor pro tem is not reelected. The next eligible sequential district will serve as mayor, but will lose their term as mayor pro tem. Under an alternative models, under a seniority-based rotation based on the existing procedures, again, we would require 2 and 1 years of experience to serve as mayor pro tem or mayor. Regular rotation would essentially stay the same, which is continuous service since last serving as mayor. I do recommend adding mayor pro tem in case the mayor pro tem decides not to serve as mayor. Tiebreakers, when 2 or more members are sworn into the same day in different districts, ties will be broken with a coin toss. And then if a member declines service as mayor pro tem, that member shall retain their seniority and will have priority in subsequent years until such time as they decide to serve, which is our current policies requirements. Based on the questions that we received today and included in the Q&A memo response, another alternative model to the seniority-based rotation was developed. One is that the regular rotation priority will be given to the member with the longest continuous service since last serving as mayor or mayor pro tem, if ever. Tiebreakers could be broken by mutual agreement. If 2 or more members are tied, they can come to a mutual agreement on the sequencing of serving as mayor pro tem. And if no mutual agreement is reached, ties will be broken by lot, such as a coin toss, drawing straws, or a high card from a standard deck. And then declining service as a mayor pro tem. If a member declines service as the mayor or the mayor pro tem, then the member's future placement in the rotation will be as if they served in the year for which the service is waived. And then finally, members under a nomination-based rotation, members will be solicited to nominate any eligible member to serve as mayor or mayor pro tem. The council may impose minimum qualifications such as having a specified number of years on council. The nomination process begins with the presiding officer calling for nominations, and a member may nominate any eligible member to that office. Under the election, if there is more than one nominee, the candidates are voted upon in the order in which they were nominated. And as soon as one of the nominees receives a majority vote, that candidate is declared elected. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
Or if there are comments.
Okay, well, let's
There's no
advance to
questions.
comments.
Yes. Thank you to the subcommittee and staff for obviously working very, very hard to produce this work product. Ultimately, I conclude it's a much greater change to our current system than is warranted. And when you make this comprehensive a change with this much detail, there are always unforeseen consequences, which I will point out in a minute. But here is why, quite frankly, I prefer the alternative presented, which emerged from the question and answer process. And perhaps you could put that back up. For a number of years, we have had a seniority-based system to determine rotation into the mayor's position. It's been refined with a sequence of resolutions. And that system affirms two core values about Palm Desert's approach to the mayor's position. It's not an opportunity for each of us to be king or queen for a year. Instead, it's an intentional plan to tap the unique abilities each council member brings to this dais in facilitating good process that can unify the full council around significant multi-year goals that gives our staff much better guidance than a system which could create whiplash as individuals have sway with their priorities. As I've watched this system, I've seen each person who has served bring special talents which are a function of who that person is, not a function of their address. And I'll just cite two examples. Susan Marie Weber, as a mayor, launched an in-depth research into the history of each committee and commission, its founding documents, its scope, its purposes. That was highly useful. She happened to live in what is currently District 1, but that propensity to be interested in history and detail had nothing to do with her address. It just had to do with who she was. Those who worked with Bob Spiegel will recall that he taught us all how to push things along. That trait had nothing whatsoever to do with his address, which happened to be in current District 2. It's just who he was. So as we went through the discussion of districts, we were consistently assured it's a different method of electing council members, but still intended to select people who serve the entire city. And our system, our historic system of making sure that the people elected to council, not the addresses, but the people elected to council serve in the mayor's position with equal frequency, honors that sentiment. The simplest way to update our seniority-based system is reflected on what's on the screen now. We do need a different method of breaking ties because each person has a different electoral pool. I suggested mutual agreement as the first step because oftentimes people's personal circumstances will lend themselves to that. And if not, some mode of chance is available. And provision 3 just seems prudent to address while we're updating things. This simple updating doesn't produce any surprises or anomalies. By contrast, if we look at the proposed schedule in the staff report, let me just play out 2 scenarios. If my colleague, Councilmember Troopy, is reelected in 2026, he would be reelected as the representative of District 4, right? On this proposed sequencing, that would mean as he concludes being mayor, he becomes mayor pro tem. By contrast, whomever is elected from District 2 in this most immediate election would not serve in either position throughout the duration of their term. Excuse me. Now, that contrast flows purely from their addresses, not their attributes. But by being elected to serve the entire city of Palm Desert, the city is entitled to experience the particular attributes they bring to leadership with equal frequency. And I would discourage anyone from trying to tinker with the schedule to fix that anomaly, because the anomalies you encounter when you start to play out various scenarios are frankly endless. And the biggest impediment I see to making this fairly radical change now is that there is a high probability after the 2030 census, we will have to do some significant redrawing of district lines to reflect where the population has grown. And it would be problematic to get halfway through this projected chart, only to have that process change which districts council members serving live in. So I see this as buying a whole case of worms that just aren't necessary when there are simple, straightforward ways to update a system which has worked.
So let me begin with full disclosure. I was on that subcommittee that came up with the first model. And then let me say, I agree with most everything that Council Member Kelly said. And I look at, and some of the things I agree on, I agree for different reasons. The seniority-based rotation has worked well. And experience is certainly very valuable. And we see that in all facets of life. We don't ask for the most inexperienced surgeon or attorney, we want experience. And though the mayoral position is not a position of greater power, it is just one of 5 votes. It does offer the opportunity of mentorship to a newly elected person. That experience is valuable. And I really have to take a look at this, and the seniority-based rotation makes sense. Now, looking at what we see on the screen, I like the regular rotation. I like the declining service as MPT or mayor, whatever that turns out to be. I do not like mutual agreement. It opens itself perhaps to not the best result, but by lot, by chance, that seems to me to be the fairest way to go about that. I would delete the mutual agreement and stick to the second option under the tiebreaker. You know, this is a result of one of the unintended consequences of districting. And it doesn't serve the city well. And if it doesn't serve the city well, it serves no one well. So the seniority-based rotation minus the mutual agreement option listed seems to me to be the best option. Thank you.
If I could comment, I don't know if this was what you were thinking of when you were explaining your viewpoint, Councilmember Kelly, but I passed on being mayor, and so I think it was a mutual agreement in my situation because I didn't believe I would have enough time at this particular year with my family circumstances. And so I readily passed on being mayor. So what did we do in this situation where there are 2 people that are tied and one person says, you know, this year isn't the time for me to be mayor? Okay. All right. So if a member declines service.
So to respond to
Okay.
your question,
Okay.
if we do have a tie and one person decides that they would like to decline,
Then,
then we don't have a tie.
okay, that's, okay, because I thought that,
Here's what I
Okay.
had in mind, and I'm not wed to the mutual agreement clause if the majority think that's subject to mischief. But what I had in mind is a circumstance where two people are elected concurrently, one looks at the other and says, you know, you were on the planning commission for 15 years. You've been chair of the planning commission. I think it would be smart if you take the first turn and I take the second turn so I can learn from you. I was thinking of a situation not where there's mischief, but where there's a recognition that one person could perhaps mentor and model the other. But if it's too subject to unforeseen circumstances, as I said, I'm not wed to it. The thought about number 3 also flowed from concerns I've heard from members of the public that, well, there may be very valid reasons for saying not this year, as there were in your case. There could also be a scenario in which someone just thinks it's advantageous to postpone a year so that their services may coincide with some strategic goal. I don't think that way, so I can't provide more detail. But I've heard people raise that issue. So the purpose of number 3 is to say, of course, you can waive the opportunity, but then you wouldn't serve immediately after that waived year. You would just be in the future rotation as if you served. And this would apply prospectively, not retrospectively, because people need to be aware of the standard at the point in time they make the decision. So it would not apply in your case.
That makes perfect sense.
I think that I would like to go back and clarify, Councilmember Kelly, when you were giving the example of Councilmember Truby in what district and how he would have 2 chances. I'm looking at maybe the chart a little differently. That this one shows the mayor pro tem versus mayor, and it goes in gradual opportunities. So if he's in District 4, he would be mayor pro tem in 26 and then mayor in 27.
And he is also expected to be mayor starting in December of 2025.
That is not too different than some of the rotation that we have had right now. This, the way I look at it, is growing pains. Had we resolved districts many years ago, 2019, and not pushed it this far out, we would have been past this awkward growing stage. I think that saying that it's going to be a very drastic change with the census in 2030, well, that's what our Constitution says. As we look at how we're developing the North End, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And I think that the proposed rotation that allows the different districts to present their different opportunities and perspectives is essentially discounting that somebody could come in with experience that has not been seen before. As stated, you can't be mayor in year number 1. You have the opportunity to be mentored. I think that just because there have been other people that have served longer, it does not mean that their vision and their growth is not capable. It doesn't mean that we're going to give staff whiplash. It doesn't mean that this is the opportunity to let someone have a U-turn, for example. City government is fluid. We have policies that we reinforce. We have policies that we update. That's why we have a wonderful legal team and we keep not one person, but a team. So we are ensured that we're moving things forward with the best compliance and the best interest of our residents forward. This is a matter of one person serving the city elected by one area. This is, as I've mentioned before, I'm here because the residents of the voters in District 1 wanted to see me on council. This does not mean that I don't serve everyone. This doesn't mean that I haven't been down in the north and hearing their concerns about what they want to see moving forward, the questions that I'm bringing forward here on El Paseo. These are even people that live outside of Palm Desert but have business interests here. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that when we have it as a seniority base and we have opportunities for people to serve multiple times in a short amount of time, that is not too different as it would be to have a directly elected mayor. And while we are bypassing that scenario, I think it lends itself to having an increased frequency of the same people in the leadership position without the opportunity to spend more time with that mentoring. That is the spirit of it, but just as you said, there are unforeseen circumstances that may not guarantee. For example, there are 5 of us here. It means that given the way the rotation works, you could spend your whole 4-year term and not serve as mayor. Does that mean it's not equitable? Does that mean that that individual was not equally qualified because of the time that they've served, because they could have served on committees and have experience? I think that this is the most equitable way to do it because we're bringing in residents that have perspectives that maybe have not been highlighted here. It doesn't matter where you live, it's your willingness to serve, it's your competence to serve, and none of that, as you mentioned, is determined by zip code, nor necessarily the months that you've served after you've met the qualifications for mayor or pro tem.
May I? Mayor, I agree with most of the principles you expressed. And so it's just a difference of what process best serves those principles. One reality is that with 5 people and 4-year terms, inevitably, sometimes a person will serve for a full term without being mayor. And I was one of those people. So that's something we can't fix with this. But having heard everyone speak, I'm going to try a motion to see if it garners sufficient support. And the motion is to instruct council to bring back to us a resolution implementing the seniority plan that was captured in the PowerPoint as flowing from the question and answer exchange minus the mutual agreement clause, which seems to have caused some concern.
I agree. I support that. I would also, while we're taking the time to look at this, what were to happen in terms of someone being appointed mid-term, if it means that your last service since mayor or the position that you're filling, how that would factor in. For example, as we're moving to elections and what we have seen of who has pulled their intention and what districts to run, right now we have, it is my understanding, 2 sitting council members running for the same seat, although there is a disparate number of years remaining in their term. How would that come about in the situation should there be someone that wins ahead? So that's another thing that I've been asked.
If I may, there's a motion, so I'm going to second it so we can have discussion.
Sure, thank you.
I don't think the situation you envision requires any further addition because if two incumbents run against each other, one will win and one will not. And we won't have to worry about where the one who did not win fits in the rotation. But perhaps we could add to the motion a request that the clerk assess whether this solution leaves any questions unanswered that we ought to address now to achieve clarity. And if so, to bring those questions back to us. Does that work for my seconder?
Yes.
So
The follow-up point that I had, and this is one that I have been asked numerous times, with one sitting council member with a term expiring this term, seeking reelection, and a sitting council member with time remaining in their term, should they run at the same time? Would this allow, if one should win and not the other in District 2, how would that be handled? How would, just as mentioned, right, we've got a lot of potential anomalies and we need to figure that out.
And I'm happy to respond to it. The question certainly came up during the districting process. And I'm going to just use the names so for simplicity. So you have Councilmember Kelly and Councilmember Harnick running for District 2's position. Councilmember Kelly's term ends in December of 2024. Councilmember Harnick's term ends in 2026. If Kelly were to win and Jan loses, I'm sorry, Councilmember Harnick loses, she would continue to serve the remainder of her term through 2026. And then at that time, she would either need to move to another district or not seek re-election because there is no election to seek. Conversely, if Harnick were to win and Kelly were to lose, Harnick would assume the position of the new District 2, and Kelly would step off council. And then Jan Harnick's term, her current term, would be declared vacant, and then the council would need to decide whether to call for a special election or to do an appointment process.
And what would that appointment process look like? What is
It-
the current, if I may?
A
For the record,
a
because
typical-
this is something that has come up a lot, it is something we're getting a lot of questions from residents. It has been discussed in the past. I don't see that there is anything improper because of the fact that these are questions that we are currently getting. If
But
you would
this is not
prefer-
on the
excuse me,
agenda.
Excuse me. If we're right now, we are having the discussion to follow back and request that we bring this back to council with exploring different options and unforeseen situations. I think it is appropriate because it may factor in to the way that my peers will vote or the comments from the residents that may give us a different perspective and address the way that we may vote in support or in opposition.
May.
So if there was a vacancy on city council, the council could elect to do an appointment process. I believe it needs to make that determination to do a appointment process within 45 days of the vacancy of the position. And then we would solicit applications from residents within District 2, or I'm sorry, from the vacant district, which would be the 80% district. So majority of the population would be able to submit an application for Councilmember Harnick's vacated term.
I need to comment. The amplification of my motion was limited to questions we have not addressed about the rotation system. These questions, which flow from who's running in District 2, may or may not come to fruition. The actual filing period to run for election in District 2 happens in July. So I would suggest it's not a fruitful use of staff or council time to spin out hypothetical scenarios and try to address them. And obviously, we don't veer into campaigning from the dais, but if anyone wants to know how probable these scenarios are, they can certainly speak to myself or Mayor Pro Tem Harnick outside these proceedings.
I see your perspective. What I was referring to was a hypothetical situation in 2030 when we redistrict. Once we look at how things would change, because things would move, as we have seen with, for example, the trustees, where we see assembly districts, we see so many things where there is the intent and the boundaries change. That's where I was coming from. It had nothing to do. That's why I said one sitting council member versus another. I did not bring up names. A hypothetical situation currently relative was presented for clarification, but where I was looking at is future census impact.
Thank you. So again, leaving those questions for the future, my motion simply tags on a request from the clerk to identify any respects in which the proposed solution does not address rotation. So are we ready to vote?
Motion passes 4-0 with Mayor Quintanilla abstaining.
Thank you so much. Since we do not have any public hearings, do we have any additional information items? I would like to share one last sentiment. This afternoon, my peers and I had the opportunity to attend the Senior Inspiration Awards, where each city and recommended or recognized one senior that is inspiring for many different reasons. And Father Charlie Era, which has been present and engaged, brought a sentiment where he was asked, how would you describe yourself in one word? And he said, tenderful. And we all paused. And I thought, okay, tender and wonderful, but he defined it as 10 times better than wonderful. So I wish you all a tenderful weekend with your loved ones and careful out there with any weather changes. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned at 5:56 p.m.